When Alexey Navalny, the Russian opposition leader, died in an Arctic penal colony in February, Western countries were quick to add to the ever-growing list of sanctions against Russia. By the time of Navalny's funeral, the number of sanctions imposed by the United States alone totaled more than 500. Most of those are linked to Russia's aggression in Ukraine. They intensified with Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022. But some of the sanctions date back to 2014, when Moscow overran Crimea. But are any of them actually working? Yes, super yachts belonging to Russian oligarchs have been impounded. Bank accounts have been frozen. Western retail chains have shut their stores in Moscow and beyond. From the get-go, the aim was to put the squeeze on Russia's economy, to provoke Russian people to think twice about Vladimir Putin's war on Ukraine and any opposition to his presidency. But if the sanctions against Russia were supposed to shrink the economy, to make fighting a war all that much harder on Russia, figures suggest that Putin's war economy is actually growing. And this view of trucks queuing to get into Russia is said to be deliveries of banned goods and technology that are still getting in, despite the international crackdown. Brands like Apple are still available on Russian answers to Amazon, sites like Yandex Market, at very competitive prices. More than 1,500 companies, including many of the world's most recognizable brands, announced long ago that they would end or dial back their operations in Russia in protest over Moscow's military aggression against Ukraine. But an investigation by Al Jazeera English Online and our digital investigations team has found that many of these companies' products are still easily available in Russia.
Do you have logistics channels already established?
This is our journalist posing as a customer in Russia. The journalist is talking to BMG International, an electronics distributor which operates out of Dubai.
We can send the goods on CIT Moscow. We can insure the goods. We can send it to the airport.
Sending American brand phones to Russia doesn't present a problem to them, but they prefer payment through a third party.
Okay, we can receive money from Russia, but currently we don't prefer to receive money directly from Russia. That's why we can introduce you to our partners here. You can do the transfer to their company in Moscow and they will transfer them to us here.
A lot of the current trade is online. High-end luxury firms shut up shop in Russia back in 2022, but Russian businesses have established a network of alternative supply chains to import restricted goods through third countries. Our journalist even found a store in Dubai selling luxury watches, which sees no problem trading with a Russian client. In a WhatsApp message, our journalist wrote she is a potential client from Russia. The reply could not be clearer. It says, "We are more than happy to deal with you." Then there are the cars. After the Russian invasion of Ukraine, manufacturers like BMW, Audi, Nissan, Kia and Ford all pulled out. New car sales fell like a rock by 59%. Then they started picking up again, with Chinese manufacturers filling the gap. They now control 50% of the Russian market. It was just 10% before the war. But if you check out Russian websites, you can still buy new cars that officially just shouldn't be available. So how are all these phones, food, toys, cars and perfumes getting in? Well, Russia's relaxed its import laws. Now, products enter without the permission of the trademark owner. That means shipping from countries that haven't signed up to the sanctions, countries like China and the United Arab Emirates. Other products come overland through countries that include Georgia, Belarus, and Kazakhstan. So while Germany's exports to Russia almost halved in the first quarter of 2023, for example, its exports to Russia's neighbours actually shot up. There's also evidence that suggests sanctions designed to stop Russian missile and drone attacks like this are failing too. US and European technology vital for these weapons and other military hardware, is being smuggled to Russia through countries that aren't signed up to the sanctions regime. Russia is now the most penalized country in the world, with more than 16,000 sanctions on Russian individuals and entities currently in place. When they were imposed, Russia's economy tanked. Now though, it's growing as Russia pumps cash into military production. The International Monetary Fund has upgraded its growth forecast for Russia this year to 2.6%. Yet Western powers continue to insist their sanctions are making an impact.
Global sanctions, the oil price cap, the export controls that we've put in place have weakened Russia's war machine, and these restrictions will get significantly tighter.
But there is an acceptance that Russia is finding ways to work around the many restrictions.
Any country that is supplying dual-use goods to Russia, we need to make sure we're prepared to sanction companies in those countries.
At first sight, the sanctions battle looks like it's turning in Russia's favor. But Western powers still hold $300 billion of Russian reserves. And the hope in the US and Europe is that every ruble Vladimir Putin spends on finding workarounds for sanctions means 1 ruble less to send to the front in Ukraine. Economists argue that the boost that's come from converting Russia's economy into a machine for war can't last. That any kind of short-term victory for Moscow could end up as an eventual financial defeat. The strategy in the Kremlin, though, appears to be to hold its nerve and hope that in November, the US votes for a new president, and at the same time, brings an end to the West's support for Ukraine.